Good evening, good evening. This is Felix with your DraftKings picks. Today, I am not sponsored by DraftKings, so forgive me, DraftKings, for using your logo in the background if I'm not allowed to use it. So please, forgive me. I'm just a fan of the NBA, and right now, my Cleveland Browns are doing horrible, and my Cleveland Cavaliers are undefeated 15-0. We got the Boston Celtics matchup tomorrow. I will be doing a post-game interview afterwards, and my reaction review of that specific game. The scouting report is pretty simple. I can go over it today, but I'm going to do it before the game so that I can give you my predictions, my thoughts, my game plan, and you can tune in tomorrow for that. But at the present moment, I'm going to give you my DraftKings picks for today. My roster, the ones that I'm betting on, I'm doing those 25-cent bets. So if you have a betting addiction, please do not do this at all. Please refrain from this and go ahead and speak to your financial advisors about that. But today we got 6 games for the NBA at 7 o'clock today. That's in about 1 hour. We got the Bulls versus Pistons in Detroit. We got the Pacers versus Raptors in Toronto. We got the 76ers versus Miami Heat in Miami, and Magic versus Suns in Phoenix, and Rockets and Bucks at Milwaukee, and the Wizards and Knicks in New York. You come in. These are the matchups we have. And here we are, and that's my son in the background. Don't mind him. I'm going to go ahead and give you my lineups of what I selected today. So the goal of the game is to have the most fantasy points, and the person with the most fantasy points wins the competition. So let me go to my lobby real quick and show you what I got going on. So if you're on the desktop for DraftKings, you're going to want to go to the top left next to the DraftKings logo and click lineups. It's the second option on the top. So for my 2 rosters that I have here ready for tonight's bets, it's going to be an NBA Classic. It's going to be a 25-cent entry, and I'll tell you what the challenges are or what you can win in this entry here shortly. But for my first roster, I have Jay McCain. He is averaging 22.5 fantasy points, but you don't want to just look at the averages. In the last 4 games, he's averaged, he put up 38 fantasy points, 58 fantasy points, 30, and 34, and he plays for the 76ers. I'm assuming it's because Tyrese Maxey has been out of the game, and hopefully he still is. And then I got shooting guard, I got Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges has been giving an average of 16.5 fantasy points for the past year, but in the last 4 games he put up 35, 39, 36, and 29 fantasy points. So as you can see, I'm going based off of the last 5 game averages, and that's for my guard positions. At small forward, I got Anunoby. He is putting up in the last 5 games 37, 39, 32, 39, 37. So I should be north of 35 fantasy points here in this next game if he's consistent with his averages. Then I have Tobias Harris at power forward. He's only averaging 33 minutes and 13.3 fantasy points. But if you look at his past 5 games, he's been putting up more than 30 fantasy points, and he's looking to give me at least 32 in the next game if the averages are true, right? In the past 5 games. And then I have Mo Wagner at center because he was a cheap center to have. Right now he's only averaging 12.6, but if we look at his past 5 games, he's out of the 5 games, he only had 1 game with 11 fantasy points, and then the other ones were all north of 25 fantasy points or close to that 25 mark, which is a good average to have when you're looking for a cheap player to add to your roster. And then we have Mathurin, he is a surprise pick. He's averaging 18.9 points in fantasy for the past 13 games. But if we look at the past 5 games, he's only had 1 game where he only had 13.5 fantasy points. But all the other 4 games that he played were all north of 40 points. He only had 1 that was below 40, which was 37 in the past 5 games. And hopefully he stays consistent and plays an exceptional game, giving me more than 20 points per game. And we shall see how he does. And then the surpriser, the sleeper, if you want a cheap but average center that gives you fantasy points and puts up fantasy points, we're looking at Jakob Poeltl. He is averaging right now 39.2 fantasy points. And his last 3 games, he had 33, 61, and 52 fantasy points. So that's for this roster that I have in a 25-cent bet. And then I'll go to my next roster. My next roster, I wanted to get some highlight players and also a mixture of low point fantasy players. So I got Cade Cunningham at point guard. Very expensive pickup, but he's been putting up more than 40 fantasy points in every single game. His highest was 71.25. So essentially, he makes up for two players himself. Mikal Bridges kept him on this fantasy roster as well. Like I mentioned, he's averaging north of 30 fantasy points in the last 4 games. Hopefully, he stays consistent and maintains that average. RJ Barrett, as you know, crazy numbers. He goes north to south any given day. But for the past 2 games, he's been north of 40. His highest has been 68.5 fantasy points. And hopefully he doesn't give me a dud today. And I'm hoping he doesn't give me an egg. So that's the truth. Taurean Prince, he plays with Antetokounmpo. Damian Lillard has been out, so his productivity has gone up. In the past 2 games, he's been north of 35 fantasy points, but he's averaging above just north of 20 points per fantasy. But when you're trying to get star players on your roster, you're going to have to take some L's in different places, and I'm just hoping he doesn't give me an L today. I kept Mo Wagner. He's averaging 20.9 fantasy points, but in the past 3 games, he's been averaging north of 25 points, except for one where he landed at an egg, 11. So that's a toss-up. Agbaji definitely was a Cavalier at one point. He was drafted by the Cavaliers. He's averaging just north of 22 points, 22 fantasy points, but he's had sporadic moments where he has 28, and 39.75 in the past 5 games. Past 5 games. So, I'm hoping for some decent productivity out of Ochai Agbaji. If he just produces fantasy points, I'll be happy with him. And he gives me north of 25 fantasy points, I win with that player right there. Right now, I got Anunoby. He's averaging 37.5 fantasy points or 32.3 for the season. But in the past 5 games, last 6 games, he's averaging 37.4. If we look at the past, he's north of 33 fantasy points. I'm hoping he hits that 40. He has not broke 40. His highest has been twice, 39.5. If I get 39, I win with Anunoby as match-for-match player. And hopefully he gives me that productivity that we need to win tonight. And then I have Duncan Robinson. He is my sleeper. He is my wishful thinking. Right now he's averaging 17.8 for the season. In the past 6 games, he is averaging just north of 20. He has 32, 14, 34, 15, 32. So it's expected that he gives me 15 points today. He's probably going to lay an egg today. But I pray to God he breaks the rate that he's going, I just need him to give me north of 25 fantasy points. And if today's a bad night for everybody, then that could be my egg that never came. And hopefully he'll be my sleeper and give me something that's going to be very, very good for me to win tonight. So we're 9 minutes into this video. This is my DraftKings picks. I am not sponsored by DraftKings, but DraftKings, if you would love to sponsor me, I would love to have you as a sponsor. If you like this content, go ahead and follow me on YouTube. I go by 216 Sports Studios. 216 Sports Studios, GIGR Sports, which is God is Greater Sports. You can follow me on there, or you can follow me here on TikTok on Where the Tacos. If you like my content, hit that like button, hit that follow. And I'm just an average Joe, just getting off of work. And man, I got a speeding ticket today. Speeding violation. I don't know how you can be caught speeding going 25. Where in the hell do you put streets where speed limit's 15 miles an hour? Come on, guys. You can run faster than 15 miles an hour. But anyways, I got a speeding ticket going 25 on a 15. Have a good day. If you like this, say hi. Yo.